The ship was dying. Captain Taiho knew this the moment the lights flickered for the third time in 1 hour. The starfall had been drifting for 6 days now, caught in the gravitational pull of an unknown planet. Their engines were dead, their communications were broken, and something had come aboard. It started with strange sounds in the lower decks, whispers that traveled through the metal walls. At first, the crew thought it was just the ship settling, groaning under the stress of their situation. But then the whispers became words, and the words became voices they recognized. Taiho stood on the bridge, looking out at the endless darkness of space. He was a tall man with tired eyes and hands that never stopped shaking since the accident. Behind him, his second-in-command, a woman named Jisoo, worked on the navigation console. She was trying to find any signal, any hope of rescue. "Captain," she said without looking up, "I heard my mother's voice last night." Taiho turned slowly. "Your mother?" "She died 4 years ago." Jisoo's fingers stopped moving on the console. "The voice came from the cargo bay. It called my name. It said she was proud of me." Taiho felt cold. He had heard voices too. His father, his old commander, people who were far away or long dead. He had told himself it was stress. He had told himself it was the isolation playing tricks on his mind. But now Jisoo was saying the same thing. "Gather the crew," Taiho ordered. "Everyone meets in the mess hall in 10 minutes. The Starfall was a mid-sized exploration vessel with a crew of 12. They had been sent to survey a distant star system, a routine mission that should have taken 3 months. Now, trapped and helpless, they were running low on hope. In the mess hall, Taiho looked at his people. There was Dongwu, the engineer, a large man with gentle hands. There was Minji, the pilot, young and scared but trying not to show it. There was Sunho, their security officer, who kept one hand on his weapon at all times now, and there was Yuna. Yuna was the ship's medic. She sat in the corner, quiet as always. She had joined the crew 8 months ago, and in all that time, Taiho had never seen her smile. There was a sadness in her eyes that never went away, a weight she carried that she never talked about. He knew only that she had lost someone. He did not know who. "I need to know if anyone else has heard things," Taiho said. "Strange things. Voices." Silence filled the room. Then, one by one, hands went up. Dongwu had heard his daughter singing. She was back on Earth, thousands of light years away. Minji had heard her brother, who had died in a shuttle crash 2 years before. Sunho had heard his drill instructor from the military academy, a man who had been dead for a decade. Everyone had heard something, everyone except Yuna. "Nothing," she said when Taiho asked her. "I have heard nothing." Taiho did not know what to make of this. Was she lying? Was she immune? Or had whatever was doing this simply not reached her yet? The answer came that night. Taiho was walking through the lower deck when he heard crying. It was soft at first, like a child lost in the dark. He followed the sound, his heart beating fast, his hand gripping his flashlight so hard his knuckles turned white. The sound led him to the storage bay. The door was open. Inside, he saw something that made his blood freeze. It was a shape, not quite solid, not quite shadow. It moved like smoke, flowing across the floor and up the walls. And from within it came the crying. But now the crying changed. It became a laugh, then a scream, then 1,000 voices all speaking at once. Taiho stumbled backward. The thing turned toward him. For a moment, he thought he saw eyes within the darkness. Eyes that were old, eyes that had seen things no human could understand. Then it spoke with his father's voice. "Taiho, my son, come closer." Taiho ran. He ran until his lungs burned and his legs gave out. He collapsed on the bridge, gasping for air. Jisoo found him there, pale and trembling. "What did you see?" she demanded. Something is on this ship, Taiho managed to say. Something that can copy voices. Any voice it has heard. It knows us. It knows the people we love. And it is using them against us. The crew armed themselves. But what good were weapons against smoke and shadow? They sealed the lower decks, but the voices still came through the walls. They tried to sleep in shifts, but no one could close their eyes when they might hear their dead mothers calling their names. Sunho was the first to break. On the second night after Taiho's discovery, he heard his wife's voice coming from the airlock. She was begging him to open the door. She was saying she was trapped outside, that she was cold, that she needed him. Sunho's wife was alive and well on a space station 3 systems away. He knew this, but the voice was perfect. Every word, every breath, every tiny pause was exactly how she spoke. Minji found him standing at the airlock controls, his hand hovering over the release button. Sunho! Stop! He turned, and his eyes were empty. She needs me! Minji tackled him. They struggled on the floor until Dongwu arrived and helped hold him down. When the voice finally stopped, Sunho began to cry. He cried for hours, saying the same thing over and over. It sounded just like her. It sounded just like her. The creature was learning. With every voice it used, it understood more about them. It knew their fears. It knew their loves. It knew exactly which buttons to push to make them fall apart. And through all of this, Yuna remained silent. She treated Sunho's injuries. She checked on the crew's mental state. She did her job without complaint, but she never heard voices. The creature never spoke to her. Taiho watched her carefully. There was something different about Yuna, something the creature seemed to notice too. On the third night, Taiho found Yuna sitting alone in the medical bay. She was looking at a small photograph. When she heard him enter, she quickly put it away. Who was that? Taiho asked. Yuna was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, My sister. Her name was Hana. Was? She died 9 months ago, before I joined this crew. Taiho sat down across from her. I am sorry. Everyone is sorry, Yuna said. There was no bitterness in her voice, just tiredness. Being sorry does not bring her back. Outside the medical bay, the lights flickered. And somewhere in the darkness of the ship, the creature listened. It had heard a new name, Hana, and it began to search for her voice. The creature grew bolder with each passing day. It no longer stayed in the lower decks. It moved through the entire ship, slipping through vents and gaps in the walls like water through cracks. Its voices filled every corridor, every room, every dark corner where the lights had failed. Dongwu stopped sleeping. Every time he closed his eyes, he heard his daughter asking when he was coming home. The voice was sweet and small, exactly as he remembered. She was only 7 years old, waiting for her father somewhere across the galaxy. The creature knew this. It used her voice to sing lullabies in the night. It used her voice to cry for help. Make it stop, Dongwu begged Taiho on the 4th day. Please, I cannot hear her voice like this, not from that thing. Taiho had no answer. He was barely holding himself together. The creature had started using his father's voice constantly, reminding him of old failures, old wounds that had never healed. It knew things only his father would know. Private conversations, family secrets, things Taiho had never told anyone. How did it know? How could it reach into their memories and pull out such perfect copies? Jisoo had a theory. She had been studying the creature's patterns, tracking when and where the voices appeared. She gathered what remained of the crew in the mess hall, drawing diagrams on a digital board. It is not just copying voices, she explained. It is reading us somehow. Maybe through our brain waves, maybe through something we cannot detect. It takes the voices from our own minds. That is why they are so perfect. These are not recordings. These are our memories made real. The crew looked at each other with new fear. The creature was not just an enemy outside them, it was inside their heads. "Then how do we fight it?" Minji asked. Her hands were shaking. She had not eaten in 2 days. "I do not know yet," Jisoo admitted. "But there is something strange. It has not targeted Yuna, not once." All eyes turned to the medic. Yuna sat in her usual corner, her face calm and unreadable. She had been listening quietly, as she always did. "Why?" Sunho demanded. He had recovered from his breakdown, but there was an edge to his voice now, a suspicion. "Why does it leave you alone? Are you working with it?" "Sunho," Taiho warned. "No, Captain. Think about it. Everyone has heard voices except her. Maybe she brought this thing aboard. Maybe she is controlling it." Yuna looked at Sunho without anger. "I do not know why it leaves me alone, but I am not your enemy." Sunho stood up, his chair scraping against the floor. "Prove it. Let us scan you. Let us make sure you are really human." "That is enough," Taiho said firmly. "Yuna has done nothing wrong. We are not going to turn on each other. That is exactly what this creature wants." The meeting ended, but the damage was done. Trust was breaking apart. The crew began to watch Yuna with suspicious eyes. They whispered when she passed. They flinched when she came near. Yuna said nothing about it. She continued her work, treating the minor injuries and stress symptoms that were spreading through the ship. But Taiho noticed that she started eating alone. She started walking the corridors after everyone else had gone to their quarters. She was isolating herself, not out of fear, but out of kindness. She did not want her presence to make things worse. On the 5th night, the creature attacked in a new way. Minji was on watch, sitting alone on the bridge. The ship was quiet. The screens showed nothing but empty space and the distant glow of the unknown planet they orbited. She was fighting to stay awake when she heard footsteps behind her. She turned. No one was there. "Minji!" The voice came from everywhere and nowhere. It was her brother's voice, Junho. He had died 2 years ago when his shuttle lost power during a routine flight. "Minji, I am so cold." "You are not real," Minji whispered. "You are not him. Why did you not save me? You were on the station. You could have sent help faster. Why did you let me die?" Minji covered her ears, but the voice was inside her head. It did not need air to travel. It did not need ears to be heard. "I tried," she said, tears streaming down her face. "I tried everything." "You did not try hard enough. You never loved me enough. That is why I died." Minji screamed. The sound echoed through the ship, waking everyone. Taiho was the first to reach the bridge. He found Minji curled up on the floor, sobbing, her fingernails digging into her own arms. "It said I killed him," she gasped. "It said it was my fault." Taiho held her, trying to offer comfort he did not have. Behind him, the rest of the crew gathered. Their faces were pale, their eyes haunted. They were all thinking the same thing. If the creature could break Minji, it could break any of them. Only Yuna moved with purpose. She knelt beside Minji, checking her vitals, cleaning the small wounds on her arms. Her hands were steady. Her voice was calm. "Breathe with me," Yuna said. "In and out. Slowly. Focus on my voice. Nothing else matters right now. Just breathe." Minji's sobs began to slow. The panic in her eyes faded, replaced by exhaustion. Yuna stayed with her, never rushing, never showing frustration, just patience and presence. Taiho watched this, and he understood something important. Yuna was not untouched by the creature because she was strong. She was untouched because she had already faced something worse. Whatever pain the creature could offer, she had already survived. Later, when Minji was resting in the medical bay, Taiho found Yuna in the corridor outside. She was leaning against the wall, staring at nothing. "Thank you," he said, "for helping her. Yuna shrugged. It is my job. It is more than that. You are the only one keeping us together. No, you are the captain. You keep us together. Taiho shook his head. I am falling apart like everyone else. I hear my father every night. He tells me I am a failure. He tells me I will get everyone killed. He paused. Sometimes I believe him. Yuna was quiet for a moment. Then she said, The creature uses our love against us. It knows that the voices of people we care about hurt the most. That is its weapon. But not against you. No, not yet. Yuna pulled out the photograph from her pocket, the same one Taiho had seen before, a young woman with bright eyes and a warm smile. Hana. The creature does not have her voice. I have not spoken of her. I have not played any recordings. There is nothing for it to copy. Then you are safe. Yuna put the photograph away. No one is safe, Captain. The creature is patient. It will find a way. She looked at him, and for the first time, he saw fear in her eyes. And when it uses her voice, I do not know if I will be strong enough to resist. In the darkness of the ship, the creature listened. It had heard the name Hana many times now. It had seen the photograph through eyes that were not its own. It knew that this voice was important. This voice was the key to breaking the one human it could not touch. And somewhere in the vast digital archives of the Starfall, there were files, personnel records, private messages, video logs. The creature began to search. The creature found what it was looking for on the 6th day. Deep in the ship's communication archives, buried among thousands of routine messages and reports, there was a folder marked Personal. It belonged to Yuna. Inside were video files, audio messages, and photographs. All of them featured the same person, a young woman with kind eyes and a laugh that sounded like music, Hana. The videos showed the two sisters together, birthday celebrations, quiet conversations, everyday moments that meant nothing to anyone except them. In one video, Hana was singing while cooking dinner, her voice off-key but full of joy. In another, she was leaving a message for Yuna, telling her to take care of herself, telling her she was proud of her older sister. The creature absorbed it all, every word, every breath, every pause between sentences. It learned the rhythm of Hana's speech, the warmth in her tone, the way her voice rose when she was excited and softened when she was being serious. Now it had the weapon it needed. That evening, Yuna was in the medical bay, organizing supplies. The work was meaningless, just something to keep her hands busy while the ship fell apart around them. She had become used to the silence. The creature never spoke to her. She was the only quiet corner in a storm of voices. Then she heard it. Yuna. Her hands stopped moving. Her heart stopped beating. She knew that voice better than her own. Yuna, are you there? She turned slowly. The medical bay was empty. The lights flickered overhead, casting strange shadows on the walls, but the voice was everywhere. It filled the room like water filling a glass. It is me. It is Hana. Yuna closed her eyes. Her whole body was shaking. She had prepared for this moment. She had told herself it would come, but nothing could prepare her for hearing that voice again. You are not her, Yuna said. Her voice came out weak and broken. Of course I am. Do you not recognize me? Your little sister? Hana is dead. She died 9 months ago. I know, I remember. The accident at the research station. The fire that spread too fast. You were supposed to be there too, but your shuttle was delayed. You lived. I did not. Tears ran down Yuna's face. Every word was true. Every detail was perfect. The creature had done its research well. Stop, Yuna whispered. Please stop. Why? Do you not want to talk to me? You always said you wished you had more time. You always said there were things you wanted to tell me. Now is your chance. Yuna grabbed the edge of the medical table to keep herself standing. Her legs felt like they were made of water. The voice wrapped around her like arms, like an embrace she had missed for so long. I miss you, Yuna. I miss you so much. I miss you too. The words came out before she could stop them. Every day, every hour, I miss you. Then why do you fight? Why do you resist? Just let go. Let me take care of you. We can be together again. Yuna opened her eyes. The shadows in the room were moving. They were gathering in the corner, forming a shape, not quite human, not quite anything, just darkness with a voice. And suddenly the spell broke. This was not Hana. Hana would never ask her to give up. Hana would never want her to surrender to the darkness. Hana had spent her entire life fighting for the people she loved. She would never accept this twisted version of comfort. No, Yuna said. Her voice was stronger now. You are not my sister. The creature paused. For a moment the room was silent. Of course I am. Listen to my voice. You know it is me. I know my sister. I know her heart. And you do not have it. You have her words and her sounds, but you do not have her soul. Hana would tell me to keep fighting. She would tell me to protect my crew. She would never ask me to give up. The shadow flickered. The voice changed, becoming harder, colder. You are foolish. This pain you carry will destroy you. I offer you peace. You offer me death, Yuna said. That is not the same thing. The creature moved closer. Yuna could feel the cold radiating from it, like standing near an open grave. But she did not step back. She stood her ground, her hands clenched into fists. I have watched you, the creature said, dropping the pretense of Hana's voice. Now it spoke with 1,000 voices at once, a chorus of the dead and the distant. I have watched all of you. Your species is strange. You carry your pain like treasure. You hold on to your memories even when they cut you. Why? Because they are ours, Yuna said. Our pain, our love, our memories, they make us who we are. They make you weak. No, they make us human. The creature stopped. It was close enough to touch now, a mass of shadow and stolen voices. Yuna could see shapes within it, faces that appeared and disappeared like ripples in water, the faces of everyone it had ever consumed. The species it had destroyed across countless worlds, but it did not attack. It just watched her with eyes that had no form. You are different from the others, it said finally. They break. They fall. You do not. I broke a long time ago, Yuna admitted. When Hana died, I thought I would never recover. I thought the grief would kill me, but I am still here, still standing, still breathing. That is what humans do. We break, and then we put ourselves back together, again and again, as many times as it takes. The creature was silent for a long moment. The shadows swirled and shifted, as if it was thinking, processing, trying to understand something that was beyond its experience. Then slowly, it began to retreat. It pulled back into the walls, into the darkness, into the spaces between spaces where light could not reach. Your sister's voice, it said as it faded. I will not use it again. Yuna stood alone in the medical bay, trembling. The cold was gone. The shadows were still. The creature had left, and with it, the sound of Hana's voice. She slid down to the floor, her back against the medical table. The tears came freely now, tears of grief and relief and something she could not name. She cried for Hana. She cried for herself. She cried for the crew who were suffering under the creature's torment. That was how Taiho found her an hour later, sitting on the floor, her face wet, her eyes red. Yuna, he said, kneeling beside her. What happened? It used her voice, Yuna said quietly. Hana's voice. It tried to break me. And it stopped. She looked up at him, something like wonder in her expression. It stopped, and it told me it would not use her voice again. Taiho did not understand. None of this made sense. The creature was a predator. It did not show mercy. It did not make promises. But Yuna understood. Somewhere deep inside, she knew that something had changed. The creature had learned something from her, something it had never learned from any other species it had encountered. It had learned that some voices were sacred. The creature retreated to the deepest part of the ship, and for the first time in days, the voices stopped. The crew did not trust the silence. They moved through the corridors with weapons ready, waiting for the next attack. They jumped at every shadow, every creak of the metal walls, but nothing came. Hours passed, then a full day, and still nothing. Taiho called a meeting. The crew gathered in the mess hall, exhausted but alert. Yuna sat among them now, no longer in the corner. Something had changed in the way the others looked at her. The suspicion was gone, replaced by curiosity and something like respect. "Yuna, tell us what happened," Taiho said. "What did you say to it?" Yuna hesitated. Speaking about Hana was still painful, like pressing on a wound that had never healed. But the crew needed to understand. They needed hope. "The creature used my sister's voice," she began slowly. "It thought this would break me like it broke the others. But it did not understand what it was doing. It did not understand what Hana meant to me." "What do you mean?" Jisu asked. "The creature copies voices to cause pain. It finds the people we love and uses them as weapons. But love is not just pain. Love is strength." When I heard Hana's voice, yes. It hurt. It hurt more than anything. But it also reminded me of who she was, who she really was, and Hana would never want me to give up. The crew listened in silence. Even Sunho, who had accused Yuna just days ago, was leaning forward. "The creature expected me to collapse. It expected grief to destroy me. But humans are not destroyed by grief. We are shaped by it. We carry it with us. And we keep moving. This is something the creature has never seen before." "So it just stopped?" Dongwu asked. "It gave up?" "I do not think it gave up. I think it learned something. It looked at my grief, really looked at it, and saw something it did not expect. Something that made it hesitate." Taiho thought about this. In all his years of space exploration, he had encountered many alien species. Some were friendly, some were hostile. But all of them, every single one, operated on logic he could understand. Predators hunted, prey ran. This was the way of the universe. But the creature was different. It was not just hunting them for food. It was studying them, learning from them. And somehow Yuna had taught it something that changed everything. "Can we use this?" Taiho asked. "Can we communicate with it?" "I do not know," Yuna admitted. "It is not like any life form we have encountered. It feeds on fear and pain, but maybe there is more to it than that. Maybe it is capable of more than just destruction." The discussion continued for hours. The crew debated what to do next. Some wanted to hunt the creature and destroy it. Others wanted to wait and see if it would leave them alone. A few even suggested trying to make contact to understand what it was and what it wanted. In the end, they decided to wait. The creature had retreated. The voices had stopped. For now, that was enough. But Taiho was not satisfied with waiting. He needed answers. That night, he walked down to the lower decks alone. He carried no weapon. If the creature wanted to kill him, a weapon would not save him anyway. The lower decks were dark and cold. The lights had died here days ago, and no one had bothered to fix them. Taiho walked slowly, his footsteps echoing in the empty corridors. He could feel something watching him, something waiting. "I know you are here," he said to the darkness. "I want to talk." Silence. Then slowly the shadows began to move. They gathered in front of him, forming the same shapeless mass he had seen before. Eyes appeared within the darkness. Old eyes. Tired eyes. "Captain," the voice that spoke was not stolen. It was the creature's own voice, deep and layered like the ocean. "You are brave or foolish." "Maybe both," Taiho said. "I want to understand." "What are you?" The creature considered the question. "I am old. Older than your species. Older than most of the stars in this region of space. I have traveled from world to world, feeding on the minds of the creatures I encounter." "Feeding?" "Yes. Fear sustains me. Pain nourishes me. The voices I take, the memories I steal, they all become part of me. I have consumed thousands of species, millions of minds. They all live within me now, screaming forever." Taiho felt sick. He had suspected something like this, but hearing it confirmed was different. This creature was not just a predator. It was a graveyard of entire civilizations. "Then why did you stop with Yuna? Why did you promise not to use her sister's voice?" The creature was quiet for a long moment. When it spoke again, its voice was different. Softer, almost confused. "I have consumed many species. I have learned their languages, their cultures, their deepest fears, but I have never encountered anything like humans. You are fragile. Your lives are short. Your bodies break easily. By every measure, you should be simple prey. But we are not. No, you are not." The creature's eyes flickered. "When I took your voices, I expected you to collapse. Other species do. They hear their loved ones speak, and they lose all will to fight. They surrender. They beg for death. But your crew did not. They suffered. They cried. Some of them nearly broke. But they kept fighting. They kept trying to survive." "That is what we do," Taiho said. "We fight, even when it hurts, even when it seems hopeless." "Yes, I see that now." "And then there is Yuna." The creature's voice changed again, taking on a note of wonder. "I have consumed species that feel no emotion. I have consumed species that feel only logic. I have consumed species that love, but their love is pale compared to what I felt from her. When I used her sister's voice, I expected to find weakness. Instead, I found something else. Something I do not have a name for." "It is called grief," Taiho said. "Real grief. The kind that comes from real love." "Grief," the creature repeated, as if testing the word. "In all my existence, I have never felt grief. I take, I consume, I move on. There is no loss. There is no love. There is only hunger." "That sounds lonely." The creature did not respond immediately. The shadows swirled and shifted, and Taiho had the strange feeling that he had touched something raw, something vulnerable. "Yuna's grief was different from anything I have ever tasted," the creature finally said. "It was not weakness. It was not surrender. It was a wound that she carried willingly because the alternative was forgetting. And she would never forget. She would hold on to that pain forever because it was the last piece of her sister she had left." Taiho understood. He thought of his own father, the voice the creature had used against him. It had hurt because he still loved his father, even after all these years, even after all the disappointments. The pain was proof that the love was real. "That is why you stopped," Taiho said. "You realized that using Hana's voice was not just attacking Yuna, it was attacking something sacred." "Yes." The creature's voice was barely a whisper now. "I have destroyed worlds. I have ended civilizations. I have never hesitated. But when I looked into Yuna's heart and saw what her sister meant to her, I could not continue. For the first time in my existence, I felt something other than hunger." "What did you feel?" The creature paused. "Respect." The next morning, the engines came back online. Dongwu discovered it first. He had gone to the engine room to run diagnostics, expecting the same dead screens and cold machinery he had seen for the past week. Instead, he found lights blinking, systems humming, power flowing through circuits that had been dark since the creature arrived. He ran to find the others, shouting the news through the corridors. Within minutes, the entire crew had gathered in the engine room, staring at the impossible sight. "How is this possible?" Jisoo asked, checking the readings on her console. The damage was severe. It should have taken weeks to repair. Taiho knew the answer. He looked at the shadows in the corner of the room, the shadows that were just slightly darker than they should be. "It was not us," he said quietly. "It was the creature." The crew fell silent. They looked at the shadows, and the shadows looked back. Then, slowly, the darkness gathered and flowed toward the center of the room. It did not take a threatening form. It simply waited. "You fixed our engines?" Taiho said. It was not a question. "Yes." The creature's voice was calm, almost gentle. "I have decided to release you." "Why?" Sunho demanded. He was still suspicious, still ready for a trap. "You had us. We were helpless. Why let us go?" The creature considered the question. When it spoke, its voice carried the weight of centuries. "I have existed for longer than your species has walked upright. I have traveled between stars, feeding on minds, growing stronger with each world I consumed. I thought I understood all there was to understand about life in this universe. But I was wrong." The shadows shifted, and Taiho thought he saw faces within them. Not the faces of the dead, but something else. Something like memories. "Your species is young. You are weak and fragile, and your lives are over in an instant compared to mine. But you have something I have never seen before. You have love that does not fade. Grief that does not end. Connections that survive even death." The creature's eyes, if they could be called that, turned toward Yuna. She stood at the back of the group, her face calm but her eyes shining with unshed tears. "I have consumed millions of minds. I have heard millions of voices, but I have never heard a voice that someone refused to forget. I have never seen a wound that someone chose to carry rather than heal, until Yuna, until Hana." "You learned from us," Yuna said softly. "Yes. I learned that some things are more important than survival, more important than strength, more important than power. I learned that the way you love, the way you grieve, the way you hold on to each other across time and space and death itself, this is something worthy of respect." The creature began to withdraw, pulling itself toward the outer hull of the ship. The shadows grew thinner, less dense. "I will leave you now. I will return to the void between stars where I have wandered for eons. But I will not forget what I learned here, and I will not use your voices, any of them. They are yours. They belong to you." Taiho stepped forward. "Wait. What will you do now? Will you continue to feed on other species?" The creature paused. For a long moment, it did not answer. "I do not know," it admitted. "Hunger is all I have ever known. But perhaps there are other ways to exist. Perhaps I can learn to be something more than a predator." "You could start by helping instead of hurting," Yuna said. "Instead of taking voices, you could return them. You have millions of minds inside you, millions of memories. Maybe some of them deserve to be heard again." The creature was silent. The idea seemed to strike it like a blow. "I had not considered this," it said finally. "The voices within me, they have always been prisoners, captives, food. I never thought of them as anything else. They were people once. They had families, they had loves, they had stories that were never finished." Yuna's voice was steady, but there was a fire behind it. "Maybe you cannot bring them back, but you could remember them properly. You could honor them instead of consuming them," The creature did not respond, but the way its shadows flickered suggested that it was thinking deeply, processing something new, something that challenged everything it had been. Then, slowly, it spoke again. "You are a remarkable species. I have encountered thousands of civilizations. None of them have ever asked me to change. They only begged for mercy or screamed in defiance. But you offer me a different path, a choice." "Everyone deserves a choice," Taiho said. "Even ancient creatures from the void." The creature made a sound that might have been a laugh. It was strange and layered, like wind blowing through a hollow cave. But there was warmth in it. Real warmth. "I will think on your words, Captain. And yours, Yuna. Perhaps in another millennium, when I have traveled to the farthest reaches of the universe, I will find an answer. Until then, know that you have my gratitude and my respect." The shadows began to flow toward the outer hull. They slipped through seams and cracks, passing through solid metal as if it were water. Within moments, the creature was gone. The ship was empty of its presence for the first time since they had been stranded. No one moved for a long time. Then Jisoo broke the silence. "I have a navigation fix. There is a human outpost 2 days away at full speed. We can make it." The crew erupted in cheers. After everything they had been through, after all the terror and the pain and the voices in the dark, they were going to survive. They were going home. Taiho watched his crew celebrate, but his eyes kept returning to Yuna. She stood apart from the others, looking out the window at the stars. Her hand was in her pocket, probably touching the photograph of Hana. He walked over to her. "How do you feel?" he asked. Yuna was quiet for a moment. Then she smiled, a small and fragile thing, but real. "I heard her voice again," she said. "Just for a moment. The creature gave it back to me, not as a weapon, just as a gift. She said she was proud of me." Taiho did not know what to say. He simply stood beside her, sharing the silence. Outside, the stars burned cold and bright. Somewhere among them, a creature older than civilization was drifting through the void, carrying millions of voices within its infinite darkness. But now those voices were not just prey. They were memories, stories, lives that deserved to be remembered. And one voice, the voice of a young woman named Hana, would never be used as a weapon again. Not because the creature could not, but because it chose not to. Because a human had taught it something it had never known. That love was not weakness, that grief was not defeat, that the bonds between people were stronger than hunger, stronger than fear, stronger than death itself. The starfall turned toward home. Behind them, the unknown planet grew smaller and smaller until it disappeared into the endless black. And ahead, somewhere among the stars, there was light. There was always light.